structure and function of the cell membrane. Now, cell membrane, as we had studied earlier also, it is the outermost covering of the animal cell, the structure and function of the cell membrane of an animal cell, and the different processes that this cell membrane carries out, right? So, let's get started. We'll start right away with the structure of the cell membrane first, and then we'll talk about the different functions of the cell membrane. So, this is the these are the structural components of a cell membrane, right? We'll study them one by one. First of all, we'll have a look at this, the lipid bilayer that forms the major component of the cell membrane. So this is called as a phospholipid layer. So what does phospholipid layer consist of? It is made up of phospholipid molecules. Okay. So these are the phospholipids. Now phospholipids, they have a specific structure. They are basically having a hydrophilic head, as you can see here, and a hydrophobic tail. So let's see, let's check out what does this hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail means. Hydrophilic head, and so if you have a look at this, you'll see it is a globular portion of the phospholipid molecule, and being hydrophilic, it is supposed to be water loving. Okay, so that it has an affinity for the water molecules, right? Now hydrophobic, phobia means fear. So hydrophobic tail means it is something which doesn't have affinity for water. It is supposed to be water repelling. So it is this chain like structure, as you can see here. This is the tail, and it is made up of fatty acid molecules. So obviously fat has an repellent quality towards water, so that's why it is water repelling. So that is the hydrophobic tail of the phospholipid molecule. So these phospholipid molecules, they make up the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane, right? Now the other components that the cell membrane has different type of proteins. So phospholipid layer is one major component, and then they have different types of proteins which are either embedded in the layer or they are present on the surface of the layer. We'll go through the different proteins one by one. So first one type of protein is called as the integral protein. Now integral, as the name suggests, it is the type of protein that is completely embedded in the lipid layer. You can see here that it is completely embedded into integral protein. Also, it is referred to as the internal protein. So, internal or integral is one type of protein of the cell membrane. Okay, right. Next, we have the peripheral protein. Now peripheral protein, if you just have a look at the peripheral protein, you can see it is present on the surface, as the name suggests, on the periphery. So the type of proteins that are present on the surface of the lipid bilayer, they are called as the peripheral proteins. So these are the peripheral proteins. Okay. Right. Now moving on to the next structure, that is the channel protein. So this is the third type of proteins that the cell membrane has. It is called as a channel protein. It is also referred to as a transmembrane or tunnel protein. Why so? Because it passes along thickness of the cell membrane. So that is why it is also referred to as the transmembrane or the tunnel proteins. Okay. Then these were the three types of proteins. The next component of the cell membrane, it is the glycolipids. Now glycolipids, it is made up of two things, glyco and lipids. So glyco refers to the carbohydrate component, and the lipids is the lipid component. Right. So these glycolipids, they basically provide a stability to the membrane. So they are the structures that provide the stability to the membrane. The next structure that we'll see, or the next structural component that we'll observe, is the alpha helix protein. Now what is the alpha helix proteins? So these alpha helix proteins, they are also a type of channel proteins. Okay, or the transmembrane proteins that I just explained. So these are also a type of transmembrane proteins. Okay, then the next structural component is the glycoproteins. Now glycoproteins, as the name suggests, it is made up of carbohydrates and it has protein component as well. So these glycoproteins, they actually act as receptors for various substances like hormones, and then allow their entry into the cell. They help in the passage of these substances into the cells. So these are the glycoproteins as a component of the cell membrane, right? Okay, now we are left with, so we are done with all the components. Now the one that is left is the cholesterol. Now cholesterol, you might be thinking, what does cholesterol do in the cell membrane? Like, how does it contribute? So cholesterol is supposed to be a very vital part of the cell membrane. Why? Because it is helping in reducing the permeability of the membrane. It is actually making the membrane very specific. It also helps in maintaining this fluidity. The cell membrane is not a rigid structure, it's a fluid structure, so it maintains the fluidity also. And another important function of cholesterol, it helps in the packing of the lipids, because the majority component of the cell membrane is lipids, so that is also helped by the cholesterol. Okay. Okay, so these were the different structural components of the cell membrane. Now, how these components, they are actually helping in the functioning of different functions that are performed by the cell membrane, that we are going to study in the functions of the cell membrane. Now, so one of the major functions of the cell membrane is supposed to be the transport. Right, so because cell membrane, it allows the entry and exit of materials through it, so that those transport processes they form the very vital function of the cell membrane. Now these transport processes can be of two types. It could be passive transport, it could be active transport. So we'll have a look at both the type of transport processes. Okay, so let's select one first. We'll have a look at the passive transport. Now passive transport, like from the name, what you can think of the process or the particular context of the process. So passive transport means that it happens without any expenditure of energy. So in this process or in this type of transport, the molecules are moving across the membrane without any usage of energy. So that is why it is called as the passive process. Okay, and the important thing to be kept in mind while we are studying about the passive transport is that it allows the transport of substances from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So the molecules, they are transported from a region where they are present in large numbers to a region where they are present in smaller concentration, right? So those are the two important things about the passive transport. Okay, now let's see, there are three types of passive transport that happens in the cell membrane. One is, or through the cell membrane rather, simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion and osmosis. So diffusion and osmosis, there are two types of passive transport processes. Now a simple diffusion, what does simple diffusion mean? So simple diffusion means the transport of molecules, it takes place from a region of their higher concentration to a region of their lower concentration, just across the membrane. So it happens just like that. They don't need any support, or they don't need the molecules don't need any assistance. They just happen to travel on their own. So that is the process of simple diffusion, and this process, it takes place across the phospholipid bilayer part of the cell membrane. That is the important thing about the simple diffusion process. Okay, so let's have a look how this process takes place. Now, as I said, simple diffusion or any type of passive transport, if we take for that matter, the molecules are transported from a region of their high concentration to a region of their lower concentration, right? So if you take take this scenario in view. So here, according to you, which particular molecule would be getting transported across the membrane, right? So the correct answer would be these triangular structures. Why? Because these triangular structures are more in number. You can see here they are more in number here. So they can be transported from the outside to the inside, because here inside the number is less for these particular molecules. So the answer to this particular question would be the triangles right? Now we'll just see how that process occurs. So we'll drive. So here you can just have a look at how many molecules are there, and then we'll just transport these molecules here. So this one molecule here, transported. Then okay, one more important thing to be kept in mind is this transport of molecule doesn't go on endlessly. So it takes place till the number or the concentration of molecules is equal on both sides, right? So once that concentration is equal on either side of the membrane, then this process stops. So that is another vital point that needs to be kept in mind, that it is the concentration on both sides for that particular substance should be equal, and then the process stops. So this was a simple diffusion process. Okay, right. Next we'll have a look at the facilitated diffusion. Now facilitated diffusion, from the name only you can just make out that facilitated means that it needs some sort of support or some sort of assistance from some different molecules, so that certain molecules can be transported. Right. So this assistance is provided by the transport proteins or the channel proteins that we had talked about. They help in the process of facilitated diffusion. The other thing, the transport is from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration only, right? But it takes place through the channel proteins. That is the most important part or important thing to be kept in mind for facilitated diffusion. So glucose molecules are they are something which gets transported through this facilitated diffusion. So we'll see how. So here now again you can have a look at the number of glucose molecule that need to be transported. As I said, the transportation takes place, or it continues till the concentration is equal on both sides. So if we consider that factor in mind, so one glucose molecule is something that we need to transport from the outside to the inside, and then that concentration becomes equal. Okay, so we'll just do that. So this is one, and we'll drag this glucose molecule to this channel protein because it's a facilitated diffusion. And now you can see that the number of glucose molecules on both sides of the membrane is equal, and thus the process has taken place, the facilitated diffusion process. Okay, now during this process, one more thing you must have noticed, that this channel protein, it undergoes a shape change, right? Why that shape change? Because it has to transport that specific molecule. So it has this glucose molecule, it attaches to a particular site of this channel protein, and then attachment leads to the change of shape of that channel protein, and then the glucose molecule is transported inside. So that is something which needs to be kept in mind, that there is some change in shape taking place in the channel proteins while they are transporting the molecules. Okay. Okay. Now next type of passive transport is the osmosis. Now osmosis is also a type of diffusion, but it's a special type of diffusion because it is involving the movement of the water molecules. So exclusively when water molecules are passively transported, then it is referred to as the osmosis. Right. Again, the movement is from the region of higher concentration of water molecules to the region of lower concentration of water molecules. Okay, and this takes place through specific type of channel proteins which are referred to as the aquaporins. Right, so it doesn't take place across the phospholipid bilayer. Why? Because the phospholipid bilayer, it being made up of fatty substances, it doesn't allow the transport of water directly, but the channel proteins help in the transport of the water molecules. Okay. Right, so we will just see again. So these water molecules, they'll be transported through these aquaporins. So you see, and again the transfer would take place till the concentration on both sides is equal. So now the concentration of water molecules is equal on both sides, right? And thus this process is completed. Now, so that was about passive transport. So it involves simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and the osmosis process. The next process that we'll study, or the next transport process we'll study, that is the active transport. Now we'll just check out what is active transport. Now active transport, it is the type of transportation process where there is expenditure of energy. So energy is required to facilitate or to help in the active transport. This is one part. Second important thing about active transport is that it takes place against the concentration gradient. What does that mean? So it takes place from a region of lower concentration of that particular substance to the higher concentration, or the region of higher concentration of that particular substance. So that is the second important thing that needs to be kept in mind when we're talking about the active transport. Third thing is that energy that is required is supplied by ATP molecules. I said expenditure of energy is involved. Now that energy is given by these ATP molecules. Okay, and the example of active transport, it could be seen in the transport of sodium and potassium ions across the membrane. So that is through the active transport, and it is called as the sodium potassium pump. So that arrangement or assembly is referred to as the sodium potassium pump, which help in the transport of this sodium and potassium ions. Okay, now let's see. So three things to be kept in mind. It requires energy. It is against the concentration gradient from lower concentration to higher concentration. And then it takes place through a special assembly which is called as the sodium potassium pump. Okay, now so here sodium ions, you can see the presence of sodium and potassium ions. Now sodium ions will be transported from their lower concentration to higher concentration. So lower concentration could be seen on the on this lower side or on the inside of the cell membrane. So we'll drag these sodium ions to the specific places of binding sites of the sodium potassium pump. Now next we require the energy. Energy is provided by the ATP molecule. So this is the ATP molecule, and the one phosphate is released, and then this phosphate attaches to the sodium potassium pump. So this attachment to the sodium potassium pump, it leads to the change in the shape. I told earlier also that when we are using the channel proteins or some sort of these sodium potassium pumps, there would be a change in shape in the channel protein. So that would occur in this case by the attachment of this phosphate, this phosphate molecule that is attached to this sodium potassium pump. Okay, and then this change, because of this change of shape, these sodium ions, they would be released to the outer side of the membrane. We'll see how. See, so now here we'll click. So now you can see there's a change of shape. The change of shape has happened, and the sodium ions, they have been transported to the outer side. Right? Now, for every 3 sodium ions, there is transportation of 2 potassium ions. Right, when we are talking about the sodium potassium pump. Now potassium ions also have specific attachment sites. So attaching 2 potassium ions to the particular site, what happens next is this phosphate is released. You can see this phosphate got released, and this, now in this case the release of phosphate, right, it led to the change in the shape of the channel protein, and thus it helped in the transportation of potassium ions into the inner side of the membrane or into the cytoplasm basically. So that is how the sodium and potassium, they are transported across the membrane, right? So that was about active transport. That was all about the structure and functions of cell membrane in this particular session. I hope you found this session informative and gained substantial knowledge about the cell membrane, its structure as well as its function. Thank you so much.